the other side of writing a book. What sort of book it is. It can be a business book, it can be a memoir, it can be anything. It can be a children's book. The process of writing will change your life. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Artist and Author Show. And today we have another amazing guest who I'm delighted to chat to on the show today. But before we get on with the show, just a reminder, if you're watching this live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Everyday Women's Network, please know that there are notes attached to this show which will give you links to our guests' information. A really important point, because often we have giveaways and gifts and connections to be made, and today is no different. Everyday Women's Network is a global streaming video on demand platform, and we have just opened subscription up to be free for anyone who wants to jump on. And that website is eWNTV.online. And I encourage you to look at our content, of which our guest today is a part of the lineup. Now, every day before we get on with the show, we do a special recognition of the important role our Indigenous communities play in the development of Australia's cultural identity. So today, I want to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region on the Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and broadcast. I want to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders listening here today. We thank you for your company. Now, Cathy Derksen from Inspired Tenacity is lifting the women of the world through her collaborative books and her collaborative publishing process. But before we introduce the lovely Cathy to the show, here's what you need to know. Cathy Derksen is a catalyst, a disruptor, and she supports and inspires midlife women to rediscover their brilliance and step into new possibilities. She is the founder of her company, Inspired Tenacity Global Solutions Incorporated, and Cathy helps women take on the courage to face major changes and challenges in their life. After working in finance for over a decade, she left her corporate job and started Inspired Tenacity to focus on helping women create success on their own terms. Cathy is an international speaker, a 10 times best-selling author who inspires her audience to dream big and take a leap of faith into reaching for their goals. She's created a platform for supporting women to share their own inspiring stories in her books, TV, and podcasts. With her all-in-one program, Cathy takes you from chapter concept to published best-selling author in a simple and exciting process. Learn more about her upcoming book projects and other programs that she runs from her website and social media. And her website is inspiredtenacity.com. The lovely Cathy lives near Vancouver in Canada. She has 2 children and 2 fur babies. And I must say, I haven't seen the fur baby in the background of the Zooms for a little while, so I must ask about said fur baby. She enjoys spending time in nature, traveling, meeting new people, and connecting with her community worldwide. Welcome to the show, Cathy.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Always fun to hang out with you, Toni.
Oh, thank you so much, Cathy. The lovely puppy. Now, he was a puppy, but I assume that he's now through puppyhood because he doesn't jump into the background of our Zooms anymore. Yeah?
Not like she used to. Every now and then she still will. She's almost 3. So yeah. I think we've made it past the teenage years or months, and I think we're getting there. But she still likes to play little games sometimes when I'm on Zoom, and she'll sneak into the kitchen and steal things off the counter.
Oh, that's my goodness.
Her new game.
because I used to talk to Cathy, and this little puppy, she would come in and she would try and get Cathy's attention. Of course, I love dogs and fur babies, so it was never an issue for me. But Cathy was worried that she was never going to grow out of her puppy stages and into, teenage and adulthood. But it appears she has, because I haven't noticed her in Cathy's Zooms for a while. So amazing. Cathy, I thought we'd start today's show with one of your motivational quotes that you love. And it says, how does one become a butterfly? You have to want to fly so much that you're willing to be a caterpillar first. And it's by Trina Paulius. Why is that quote so important to you? It's a great one, Cathy.
Yeah, especially that last part, it just really hit me. But you've got to be willing to leave the caterpillar behind. So to make any big change in life, you really have to be willing to leave behind what you're doing right now.
And that's
burn
can
the
be
boats,
hard,
walk away.
hey? That's challenging, especially for the women that you work with, and that's midlife women predominantly. Sometimes it's really hard for us to make changes and do something different, isn't it?
Well, especially because many of us have spent decades running our life around everybody else, whether it's as a mother looking after our children and our spouse, whether it's as an employee, just putting all of our heart and soul into our job. And I just find many of us, we get into our late 40s, 50s, 60s, and we just start feeling like, what am I doing? Like, this is not where I want to be right now,
Yes.
And so we start getting that calling or yearning that there's something else that I need to be doing now. But we're often so stuck in what we have been doing that we often can't even imagine what we want or what that could even look like. Or
Yeah.
we start telling ourselves those stories, or I'm too old to start something new, or I don't know what I'm doing, or people won't want to listen. I'm too old. I should just go, putter for a while, and just feeling stuck.
Definitely. And for both of us, we sort of completely changed trajectory in our late 40s and into our 50s. And I know many women who've done that in their 60s and 70s and are still doing it, which is pretty exciting, actually, because I think that once you get to that midlife period for women, there comes a wisdom and a freedom. And Cathy, I know for you, you were in finance. Can you tell the audience how you sort of went from finance into the publishing arena?
Well, I actually have to step back a little farther than that, because actually my original career, I was in medical genetics. So I
Oh,
am actually a
wow.
woman of science and tech. In my original life, I spent 25 years working in hospital labs and public education. And I like to say I've been a biologist my whole life.
Yeah.
As soon as I was able to walk around the neighborhood and show an interest, I have been collecting creatures and studying creatures. And life was always, to me, where I knew my heart was.
Yeah.
And it was, well, I guess about 12 years ago now that I hit a time in my life. So I was, yes, in my late 40s,
Yeah.
and realized that I was living in a very toxic marriage. I was working in a very toxic work environment. And, just that light went off in my head that, life's too short for this. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm not, as a role model to my kids. That was
Yeah.
the other part of it. I thought, what am I showing my kids? This is what we just put up with life and carry on. I thought, no, the role model I want to be is someone who figures out what I'm supposed to be doing with my life and goes to do it.
Yeah.
And so that was when I really started focusing on, okay, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? What is my next calling? And that's when I realized that working with women specifically
Yeah.
was definitely where my heart was. And that's when I felt that finance was an area that women often needed support.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so I left medical genetics behind completely
Mm.
and started a brand new career as a single mom now.
Yes.
And that's when I went in and I did all the certifications. I worked,
Yes.
that was
Yes.
over 10 years in
Yes.
major corporate areas here in Canada.
Mm.
But again, my goal had always been to really have an impact, like to really truly impact people's lives in a positive way.
Yeah.
And after 10 years in corporate, I really just realized, I'm pushing their products, I'm saying their lines, but I did not have the freedom to really address what I feel holds women back.
Yeah.
Most of our financial challenges aren't around lack of information. It's more around the stories we tell ourselves and the
I
limitations we put
can't
on
do this.
ourselves.
I can't do that.
And those were things that were not part of the corporate agenda that I could address.
Mm.
So again, I realized that to really have that impact that I really felt called to have, I needed to walk away from that too.
Mm.
So again, I took that leap of faith,
Yes.
jumped completely out of that career, and again, just fine tuning, where is it that I
Mm-hmm.
can have the
Mm-hmm.
most impact
Yeah.
and help women really change their life.
Yeah.
So always been kind of following that path, right?
Mm.
and,
Yes.
and that's kind of where I ended up. So I started my business. It's
Yes.
been just over 2 years now that
Yes.
Inspired Tenacity has been my main focus.
Yes.
And even in that, I've really been listening to my intuition, listening to the people around me, the women. What are they asking for? What
Yeah.
are those things? Because originally I had that idea that I would do kind of more of a coaching model.
Mm. Yes.
But again, really just found, okay, that's not quite it. That's not quite it.
Yeah.
Really evolved and listened to what are they asking
Mm.
for from me.
Yeah.
And that's when I
Definitely.
ended up in books.
Yeah. And so now you spend your life helping women write chapters in collaborative books. And so I want to just briefly talk about the power of a collaborative book for women who might be anxious about writing a whole book. A chapter in a collaborative book, and especially a collaborative book that that's going to hit bestseller, because that's what you do, Cathy.
International bestseller.
Absolutely, international bestseller. That's what you do. So it actually gives women some confidence writing just a chapter, and then they might be inspired to write a book. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I find so many people do have that dream of being an author and writing their book. And I've met so many people that have been working on it for 5 years, 10
Yeah.
years, even 20 years. I've met people
Yes.
that have been
Yes.
working on their book for 20 years.
Mm.
And often when old,
Oh my goodness. I hope I haven't lost Cathy. Oh dear.
so many,
Well, audience, I'm going to stop recording because I think.
oh, you just,
Are you back? Yay! I'm like,
oh,
oh,
you froze. Did I freeze too?
yeah, you froze, and I'm like, oh my God, I've lost Cathy.
Oh,
Oh my God, oh my God.
you were frozen on mine.
Yeah, I can't say I've actually had that happen in an interview before, but that's fine.
Oh,
That's why we have Renee.
what's the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was you talking about the power of women getting started with a chapter, and that many of them have been working on books for 20 years or so.
Okay, so should I just start back
Yes.
there? Let's see, where
Yes.
was I?
I'm just going to make a note while we are 14 minutes in, edit. Okay, cool. Yes, so let's talk about those women that have been working on their books for 20 years or so, and how starting with just a chapter actually moves them forward into getting their book done. Yeah?
Yeah, okay. So I've met people that have been working on their books for 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years. And I find what really holds people back is those stories that we tell ourselves around that, who am I to say I'm an author, or nobody's going to want to hear what I have to say or be interested in my story or in my words of wisdom. So I find that going into a collaborative book where you are one of roughly 20 who are contributing to that collection makes it easier that way, because now you're on a team, you're working together, and you actually get to meet each other and get to know each other, which is a
Yeah.
great way of approaching it
Yeah.
as well. And the books that I put together, I always focus them on a theme, and
Mm,
always picking a theme that women are inspired and excited to write about and read about. And the book that I had out that was released in January was called
yeah.
Embrace Courage. So
Yeah.
with that book, they were all sharing those stories of times in their life when they've had to embrace courage to get through. But one of the other books that I've had out recently was focused on women in science and tech,
Yeah.
sharing their stories of how they are transforming the landscape
Yeah.
of what science and tech industries look like. The one I've got right now at the editors is called Midlife Awakening. So again,
Mm,
those stories of times in our life when we've been talking about, that we just hit those times of, okay, I need to make a big change in my life.
yeah.
And so my books are all focused around stories that women want to share,
Yeah.
and that by sharing those stories, we're actually
There's
sparking ideas in
power.
other people. And
There's
exactly,
power in
exactly.
storytelling, and that's never going to change because humans are, as a fundamental part of their DNA, they're storytelling. So that's never going to change, is it, Cathy? There are always going to be space for women to tell their stories, whatever that's about. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's one thing I love about actually publishing in books. So not
Mm-hmm.
just ebooks or, things that are coming and going by technology, but a physical paper book
Yes.
that will be around long after we're gone. Somebody else could pick up that same book and be inspired and excited and motivated by the stories you shared now. So
Definitely.
even that idea of leaving a legacy, and what are you sharing? What is that ripple effect
Mhm.
of the impact that you're having today and tomorrow and going on to the future that you'll never even know? You
Yeah.
won't know who's picking up that book. Sometimes you do. Sometimes, I mean, and it's an amazing feeling to get that feedback from some other women when they
Yeah.
just come out and say, wow, those stories changed my life, or being in that book has had an impact on my life that I never would have imagined.
Mm, mm. The
And
other thing, Cathy, is that by doing it in chapter way versus writing the whole book, it becomes more manageable in terms of your belief in yourself, your financial commitment, your time commitment. It's actually a really wonderful way to kickstart what might be a writing career, or kickstart the finishing of a complete book. Cathy, you have built a whole process around this, haven't you?
yes, exactly. So basically, I have a publishing group that I collaborate with who looks after a lot of those details at the end of it. So
Yes.
the role that I play, I create the themes, the ideas, the titles. I bring together the community
A
of women
community.
that will be in the book,
Mm.
and then I coach them both one-on-one and in groups around finding their chapter, developing that chapter, doing edits with the chapter till they're comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the point that we then move it over to the publishing side, where we've got professional editors, formatters, proofreaders. They do
And all
that
that stuff.
whole thing. We do paperback and Kindle. We're working on Audible books in the
That was one of
future,
my
so
questions today
that will be
because I'm an
fun.
avid audiobook listener, and I've done a bit of voice recording for audio work as
Oh,
well.
cool.
So like a powerful believer in the voice of women telling their own story. I know from my own experience, it was very cathartic. So, oh gosh, that's exciting, Cathy.
Exactly. Yeah, and I just love the whole process. And then with the publishing group as well, they do all of the marketing materials. They create posts and marketing images for each author individually and as a group. They take us through the whole Amazon launch. We
Yes.
do that one big launch day where we hit the international number
Bestseller.
one
Mhm,
bestseller.
mhm.
And with all of the books that I create, I connect with a nonprofit group
Yeah.
who is in alignment with the theme of the book.
Mhm,
And then
mm.
all of the Amazon proceeds go directly to that nonprofit group.
Oh, wow.
So again, it's kind of creating a different ripple effect of, now I'm
That's
channeling funds to
double
these groups.
impact, isn't it, Cathy? So not only do they get the impact of being part of a collaborative book, but they also know that they're going to support something else which will have an impact. So it's like a double
Exactly.
impact way to publish, isn't it?
Exactly. And I find that the authors really like to know that that's where things are going. And after we hit that number one bestseller, our focus is no longer around the idea of selling books, like the number of books sold over time. It's more
Yes.
about releasing that information as widely as we can. So
Definitely.
we release a PDF version that the authors can then use as their own lead magnet or in their business or even just
Oh,
sharing wherever they want to. Of course,
yes,
it will always be on Amazon in all those different
yes,
formats as well, but it's really just making it accessible on so
yeah,
many levels.
yeah.
So that's what I really love about it.
And you know that we often talk about that having your content in as many spaces and places as possible, that increases the likelihood that people are going to find you and read you or listen to you or watch you. That's an important part of this whole process, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And like going back to what we were saying earlier about that shift in confidence
Mm.
around who
Yes.
you are, what you're bringing to the table. And it isn't even just about being an author that confidence grows. It now gives you that confidence that people do want to listen to what you have to say, that what you're bringing to the table is important,
Yeah.
and that there is a group waiting to hear what you're bringing. And so that improves confidence in business, in life, in, again, of course, in publishing.
Yeah.
And it just blossoms in a way that most people don't anticipate until they're in the middle of it.
Yeah. And Cathy, you're there every step of the way, collaborating and helping and making sure things go as they're planned because you set goals in place, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And we always look for new opportunities as well to build that visibility.
Mm.
And so we make interview opportunities
Yes.
available, and which is a great thing for a lot of the authors. They haven't done interviews before. So this is a whole new thing for them to actually be on camera and be, exposed to a whole different group of people. And one of the things
And
that
that
I've
can be
really
scary in itself,
Oh,
can't it?
exactly. But again, in a group. So now
Mm.
here you are as a team of authors, you're doing this together. So it
There's
helps
something
there.
there's something really wonderful about being in a group and knowing that you're not alone. So you're doing this with a group of other women who are going through the same process, feeling the same things. And there's Cathy just making sure everything happens as it's
Yeah.
meant to and encouraging you and walking you through the process. Yeah. Holding your hand, so to speak.
And with all the books that I've been involved in, so far there's 10 that are published
Yeah.
now, with more coming up, but I've really built a truly global community. So all of my books now have people from every
All
corner of
over
the
the place.
world and
Yeah.
continuing to add more.
Yeah.
And so again, it's a way for women to meet other women in completely different parts of the world that they never would have had an opportunity to meet before.
I know. And that's pretty cool, isn't it? Cathy, can you tell the audience about some of the projects that you've got coming up? Because we might have people in the audience that are just curious or thinking about writing. So I'd love to know you've got a lot of projects coming up. Can you tell us about those?
Yes, definitely. And going forward, I'm always open to new ideas as well. Again,
Um,
looking for any like themes that women are excited and inspired by. So
yeah.
just open to any new ideas people have as well. The ones that I am working on right now, two of them are focused on women transforming leadership. So
Yes.
one of them is focused on women in science and tech.
Yes.
I'm calling that one the evolution of leadership in STEM, women catalyzing change,
Yes.
which a lot of people are really excited about. And the other one is women transforming leadership in business and community.
Mhm.
And I'm really focusing on this leadership model right now because I think it's so critical, because
Oh,
women are
isn't
bringing
it?
such a different twist on how we approach leadership.
And
And
it's
to
so
spotlight that
needed
and to
in the
share that
world.
wisdom. Yeah, exactly. So that's where my big focus is right now, on leadership with those two groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also got a couple projects on the go. One's focused on grief. So
Oh,
looking at the different types of grief, and I'm
yes,
calling it the layers and shades of grief,
yes.
because of course there's so many other things in our life that we do go through a grieving process, but we
Mm,
don't acknowledge it as grief and don't give it that same respect and
yes.
consideration. And so that one
Divorce,
will
it
well,
comes to mind immediately as one of those areas of grief that we don't often acknowledge, that there is grief around divorce. No matter what
oh,
happened,
definitely.
no matter what
Yes.
circumstance, there is always grief, isn't there?
Yeah. Divorce is a huge one. Even
Yeah,
looking at COVID right now, look at how it's changed our life.
absolutely.
And we had to go through a grieving process of what we left behind, our the plans we had, the things,
Mm, it's all
there's all
completely
sorts of
changed.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Loss of a career. There's so many ways that grief plays into our life that we need to
Mhm.
acknowledge. So that book will include both experts in the field of grief sharing tools and strategies, and also women sharing their stories, their personal stories around grief. So that will be an amazing book. Another one is focused on overcoming barriers to success, like imposter syndrome is a huge
Ah,
one.
yes.
I think around the world we have different terms that we use for,
Yes.
but
Aussies
those,
call it the tall poppy syndrome. So if when you're talking to Australian women, just say tall poppy syndrome, they'll know instantly what that is.
and it's funny because you had mentioned that last time we were talking, and then I saw a post on LinkedIn where they were talking about tall poppies, and I thought, wow, I just
Yeah,
heard about tall poppies.
yeah. Because it's definitely an Australian concept, whereas the rest of the world talks about imposter syndrome. We know it as tall poppy syndrome, and we're very bad at cutting down those people that have the courage to rise up. It's just one of those truly Aussie things that I would dearly like to see end in my lifetime. That would be great.
Well, and all those things that we do to ourselves that
Oh,
stop us from moving forward to higher things and bigger things, following our dreams. So,
yeah.
in my view, if we can have a book that shares some of those stories and shares tools and strategies about pushing through those, getting past those, imagine what we'd be accomplishing if we didn't have all these things in our way.
No, I know.
And one of the other projects that I'm working on coming up, that will be starting this one into this our summer, into your winter, and it's focusing on Indigenous women in science and tech. And we're
Wow.
going to make that a global project.
Yes.
So right now I'm just starting to connect and find people that are of Indigenous backgrounds around the world
Yes.
who are women working in science and tech.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
that will be an exciting one too.
Yeah. Kathy, how do
So
people
always looking for new ideas.
I know, I know. Which leads me to the next question. How do people connect with you? Where can they find you? And if they've got questions, can they reach out on email or can they go to your website? What's the best way for you?
Well, looking at like social media,
Yes.
LinkedIn is where I am the most. I
Mhm.
am other places, but LinkedIn is the place to
Yes.
find me and
Yes.
where I'm most active.
Yes.
My website is great too. At the top, there's tabs. You can go to my new book projects.
Oh,
You can click
yay.
on my previous book projects, and that will take you to different pages that give you lots of information there. So I would say those are the two best places, LinkedIn and on my website that's got buttons for booking a call and connecting in
And,
other ways like that.
and that website is, Cathy?
inspiredtenacity.com.
And a reminder, audience, that you will find that link below in the notes. Cathy, you have a special offer for the audience today. What's that?
Exactly. So my book right now, the one that's focused on women transforming leadership in business
Yes.
and
Yes.
community,
Uh-huh.
that one right now, I'm offering a $700 discount to anyone who mentions that they saw us here on the Everyday Women's Network.
Wow, fantastic. So if you've ever thought about writing, you're a little bit unsure, I'm sure that Cathy will have a book that will fit with you, because there's a broad range of topics there, isn't there, Cathy?
Well, exactly. And like I've said, we can
New
create anything
ideas.
else. And one of the things that I'm really focusing on coming up too is creating books that are themed around a group, like say Everyday Women's Network. We could
Yes.
brand it and title it around you and
Yeah,
then fill it with chapters from people in your community. And that way it becomes both a
absolutely.
promotional piece for the network, but also a way for all your community to get
Absolutely.
involved in a book.
Absolutely. You've just sparked ideas. Every time I talk to you, Cathy, you spark more ideas in my mind. So we're going to have to keep note of that one. I
Mhm.
know you've got a lot of projects on at the moment, and so have I, but that is a really good one, actually. That is a really wonderful way in which we can get people knowing a bit more about Everyday Women's Network TV and our vision and mission and all of those things. Cathy, I have so enjoyed our interview today. I actually feel like I'm watching your trajectory and your journey from the sidelines, and I feel like it's such a privilege to clap and cheer you on in the background, because every time I talk to you, there's another wonderful project underway, and to see the success of what what you have created and what you are creating is amazing, and it's inspirational for many women in our age group. And sometimes it starts with a chapter in a book that kickstarts a whole new way of life, a whole new way of thinking. Because I can say from personal experience, the person you are at the start of your writing journey is not the person you become at the end of that writing journey. And that little journey in itself is pretty powerful, isn't it, Cathy?
Oh, definitely. And like you say, people don't anticipate how just even going through that process of putting your story on paper and releasing it to the world
Yeah.
is, yeah,
There's
you can't even
something
describe it.
powerful. There's
Yeah.
something very powerful in just doing that. And if you're feeling scared, that's pretty normal, isn't it, Cathy?
Oh,
And
yes. Oh,
that's
yes.
why that's what lights you up, isn't it? Is helping those
Yes.
women discover, I can do this. I can actually do this. And I will have a best selling badge to go with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then when they do go back to work on their solo book, they can
Yes.
put that right on the cover.
Yeah.
International best-selling author.
Yeah. Cathy, I'm curious, just before we run out of time, have you helped many? So the collaborative work is your main focus, but
Yes,
you
yes.
also have the ability to help people if they're writing a solo book, don't you?
Yes, yes. Yes, and I've had a few different people were working on projects
Good,
that,
good, good, good.
and but you know what? I find when people, it's very common when we get doing a collaborative book
Yeah.
to just get so excited about it. We do another one and another one. Like I said, I've got
Yes.
10 under my belt with more.
Yes. Yes.
And when I did my first one, I had no plan of making it a habit.
Yeah, and I can, an audience, I can tell you that I've been at the beginning of that journey with Cathy, and I've seen it evolve. And from my perspective, to know that Cathy's done 10 of these already, that's like just the beginning, because every time I talk to her, there's another idea and another idea and another idea. And that's the person that you want to work with. So, Cathy, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Audience, please jump onto Cathy's website, inspiredtenacity.com. You will be able to connect with Cathy. You'll be able to see her projects completed, the ones that are upcoming, and if you've got an idea of your own, just, Cathy, I'm thinking about doing ABC. What do you think? And then Cathy can use her expertise to go, oh, let's do da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's how all the great conversations, the great collaborations and co-creation happens across the globe, especially for women, and especially for those of us that have reached a certain age and want to see what there is more in life. Because, Cathy, you and I can conceivably expect a longevity of life. So when we reach our midlife, we've still got another lifetime to live. Yes. So that second lifetime can be more powerful than anything you ever anticipated.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And there's a wonderful thing that happens when you reach that age. The wisdom and freedom and understanding, it is so good. And I want more women to write about their experiences. So perhaps we can help the younger women growing up and coming through, help ease their burden, help educate, give them some wisdom. That's why Cathy does what she does.
Exactly. I like to say that 60 is the new 40.
Definitely. Definitely. I absolutely have to agree with you. Cathy Derksen from Inspired Tenacity has been our amazing guest on the artist and author show today. Audience, please thank Cathy. Don't forget to jump onto her website, inspiredtenacity.com, and find out all the amazing projects Cathy has underway. And I invite you to connect and just have a chat with Cathy. She is an amazingly beautiful woman, and she will inspire you to do things that you've never done before. Cathy Derksen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's not about the book, it's about the person you become on the other side of writing a book. What sort of book it is, it can be a business book, it can be a memoir, it can be anything, it can be a children's book. The process of writing will change your life.